Yeah.
Eloise says, welcome back to our channel.
Welcome back. I'm Brad.
I'm Rach.
We are on location today. None of the kids are in bed again, even though this is Brad and Rach, the kids are in bed.
This is Eloise. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button.
And hit that like button.
Get to know us a little better. Normally our kids are not in these videos. They're normally just Brad and I hashing out marriage, parenting,
Life.
controversial topics.
Everything.
Yeah.
Today, not a controversial topic, but
I think it is.
well, what's controversial about it?
People have different opinions about, like, no, you can't have my phone.
It's crazy how this virus has turned political.
Yes.
You know, this is a healthcare matter. It's sad that it's turned political.
Yeah.
So it's not just about healthcare anymore. It's about politics.
Right.
With that being said, we are presenting a non-political view of having kids that are sick during COVID.
Right. With a fever, with atypical,
Non-typical. Not
symptoms
typical.
of COVID.
So
Whether they're typical or not, I think is irrelevant. They are recognized as symptoms of COVID. And if we've learned nothing about this virus, if we've learned anything about it, we know it's not following any rules.
right. And you know, the crappy thing is, even if you get tested, it just means that you're not positive at that time.
Exactly. You can test too early.
Right. So
But there are a couple of different types of tests, and I learned this when we were deciding whether or not to get our daughter Lyndall tested. There's the rapid test, and then there's like the ones that have to be sent off to a lab. And in our local area, they won't even do the rapid tests because they're not accurate.
oh.
The ones, the other one, I'm not even sure like what they're called, take a lot longer.
Just
but
like
that's
the normal test.
right. That's the ones they're doing because they're wanting the most accurate results possible. And it takes 5 to 7 days to get results back because we don't live in a city. We live in rural Missouri, so apparently we're not near a city.
So Lyndall's symptoms, she first presented with a very mild fever, nasal congestion. Was it runny too?
Yeah.
Yeah, runny nose.
Yep.
And that's really it.
Yeah, she wasn't acting uncomfortable, or like we never even treated her fever except for one night maybe before bed. But no, she had no other symptoms really at all.
No, so she didn't complain of a sore throat, smell. She could smell, she could taste.
Right. We
So,
think.
Basically just a really mild fever and nasal congestion.
However, the next morning, Bear came down with what we assume is the exact same thing Lyndall had, but worse. He had more nasal congestion. He was like clearly uncomfortable, much more tired than usual, and had a fever of 102.5 before bed that night. So his fever was much higher than Lyndall's.
But he's also a boy.
He's also a man. And he has a man version of this cold.
Exactly.
Every illness they have shared, he's had it way worse. Besides the stomach bug.
Oh yeah. Is that funny? Is that funny?
So interestingly, Eloise also has a touch of this. Not near as bad as the twins. She's just a little bit congested and she woke up a few nights in a row. I have it, you have it. It feels like a common cold to me. Like I haven't noticed any red flags, like as far as COVID's concerned, like not being able to taste or smell, or I haven't had a fever that I know of.
No, me neither.
So
it's like, do we get Lyndall tested? Do we not? Do we self-quarantine? Do we not? And so we decided, well, and we haven't been around anybody who's tested positive for COVID. There was an incident where a family friend of ours was around someone who did test positive, but then they tested negative. And so we actually haven't been around anybody who's tested positive.
Who's known to be tested positive.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's that dilemma. Do we quarantine ourselves? Do we test? Do we not test? Do we go to work? Do we not go to work?
Right.
So it's just like all these question question marks at a time like this.
Right. And being in the healthcare profession, I feel like we have a little bit more of a responsibility because we're in a, I guess the environment we're in is much more protected than like the grocery store because we wear we wear like legitimate heavy duty masks. We require all of our patients and staff. We require all of our patients and staff to also wear masks. So everybody is masked all day long just for the protection of each other. But we consulted with one of our bosses and he said his recommendation or his take on it was to go ahead and get tested and just to find out, just to be sure. Because if it is an atypical presentation of COVID, we don't want to be around other people for sure. We don't want to perpetuate this pandemic.
Right.
So that was kind of our take on it.
So I think we should make the caveat. We're coming, our point of view is from parents and not from like medical providers.
Yes.
So don't take medical advice from what we're doing.
Very good point. Very good point. But this was like, there's a lot of gray area in this whole thing. I even so a lot of people were saying like, call her pediatrician, which of course I did. The evening that she came down with the fever, it was after hours, and so I had to call an urgent care instead of her doctor. I had to call like the after hours nurse. And they couldn't even tell me like, yes, you should go get the test, or no, you shouldn't. They wanted her to come in, which I didn't really want to take her into a urgent care clinic. I wanted to, when they had this drive-through testing, I would prefer to just take her there. So if we're gonna go to an urgent care to get a test, I would rather just do the drive-through test. So
right.
That's where that came into play. And actually she handled it really, really well.
Yeah, so.
A lot of people were worried about like how it's traumatizing and it's like, that's horrible to do that to a toddler, but she did fine. First of all, I thought they were gonna do a saliva swab, which they did not. They did the actual nose swab, but they didn't put it very far in, but they got plenty of snot.
Did they?
Yeah.
That's good.
Like you could see it stringing out when they pulled it out of her nose.
Nice.
So they got a good sampling, I feel like, but they didn't have to like swab her brain.
Yeah. So why do you feel like, why did we ultimately decide to go ahead and get the test done?
I think because we needed, I think we just decided we needed to know.
I think we're on the stance that we would rather test too much rather than not enough. And we need to know, if we need to quarantine or not.
Exactly.
Because from what I've found, you don't need to quarantine unless you're showing like obvious signs or you're around someone who's tested positive.
Exactly. That's the two that...
Which we haven't.
Right. That's the two scenarios that I'm under the impression of as well. And I guess like what the important thing in all of this is, let's say Lyndall's test comes back positive and she has just like this really atypical presentation of COVID, and then we have an atypical presentation of COVID too where we're symptomatic. Who are we going to be around thinking this is just a common cold that may not handle COVID well?
Right, totally.
So it's more of a service to like anybody we come in contact with that we could potentially spread something that has undoubtedly more deadly than like the flu and a common cold for sure.
Right.
So
that's why we went ahead and got her tested.
Yes, but we don't know yet.
Not yet. Hopefully tomorrow.
So we got her tested Thursday, and they said 5 to 7 business days. So
we really, this weekend we just didn't do anything. We watched movies and hung out, and swam in our own little pool at our house.
Exactly. We just used our own little pool. It was really sad because Friday I had plans to see one of my friends from childhood and her new baby, and we were all gonna hang out at the dock together, and like I had to tell her, that was like the morning that Lyndall and Bear were both congested and all that, and I was like, I can't let you come. It was just so sad because I haven't met her new baby yet, and there was no way in heck I was gonna let her be around us. So
if you're new around here, our twins got RSV when they were 6 weeks old, and it was like the worst 3 days of our lives.
It was
especially
horrible.
For Rachel, because she was home with them all day. I had to go to work.
Yeah, and I had it too.
Yeah, and Rachel had it, not feeling well and having to take care of twins. Ugh.
That couldn't breathe and sucking the snot out of their noses. Oh, it was so bad. It was just so scary. Like that was when we were so glad we had the outlet monitors, because
exactly,
we could at least monitor their oxygen, but it was you do not want a newborn baby with RSV.
No, that's for darn sure.
That's the other thing. Like, a common cold to us isn't a common cold to a newborn baby.
Right.
Just like COVID to us.
Or an elderly person.
Yeah, isn't just a virus to, and you never know who you're going to be around that you may expose. You never know who's going to come through where you are after you and touch what you touched. It's just, I don't know.
Again, so this is just an honest discussion about like what we're going through as a family right now with sickness and in health. And I guess hit that subscribe button if you want to see like what Lyndall's test came back, because we'll have it. We're posting videos on Mondays and Thursdays, so come back Thursday. And I think the topic for Thursdays may be our relationship with alcohol.
This lighting is so nice.
Yeah, we're out in the real world.
We're in the wilderness.
All right, so we'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.